found Johnson Aziga guilty of murder and aggravated assault for infecting women with HIV. Aziga continued to have unprotected sex after he'd been repeatedly warned that he carried the virus. When asked by his sex partners, he lied. 2 women died. 7 others are now infected. The Canadian case marks the first time that anyone has been convicted of murder by using HIV.
No, there's no doubt about that at all. He was diagnosed back in 1996, and a few years after that, he started sleeping with many women, and certainly knew of his status, and openly lied to all the women that he was in fact positive.
A landmark trial is now underway in Hamilton. An HIV-positive man is facing murder charges in the deaths of 2 former lovers. Prosecutors say he knowingly had unprotected sex, passing the virus on to both women. In a Canadian first, he was charged with first-degree murder. The CDC's Neil Tuxel was in the courtroom today.
Duty to disclose. Those are 3 words that really sum up the crux of the Crown's opening remarks here today, and really the basis for their case here in Hamilton. They say Johnson Aziga was tested back in 1996 and knew he was HIV positive, but that he continued to have unprotected sex with a number of partners all the way up until his arrest in August of 2003. They say that the jury will be hearing from a number of the women that Johnson Aziga had relationships with. Many of the women expected to testify that they specifically asked Aziga about his sexual health and that he repeatedly told them he was healthy. Public Health served Aziga with 2 orders informing him of his responsibility to tell his sexual partners about his HIV-positive status, and the Crown says it intends to prove that Aziga never did.
Talked about meeting and having a sexual relationship with Aziga. He's facing 2 first-degree murder charges and 11 aggravated sexual assault charges. The Crown alleges he knowingly had sex with 11 women without telling them he had HIV. One victim, who could only be called HC, said when she told Aziga she had HIV, "I thought it was rather odd. He just didn't respond in a way that made me believe this was something totally new." Both victims said Aziga never told them he had HIV, and they died soon after they taped interviews with police. But the defense says the testimony is one-sided, and the victims had other relationships police haven't looked at.
His lawyers tried to make the argument that perhaps he lacked judgment because of his past experiences. He was from Uganda originally, where he claimed to have seen some atrocities, and people murdered and that sort of thing, or at least was in a culture where he heard of that so often that had traumatized him in some way that affected his judgment later in life. There wasn't much of defense. I mean, he certainly didn't ever make a claim that he didn't know he was positive, and I guess the issue for the jury was whether or not he showed intent to kill these 2 women who died.
The case described as an unprecedented murder trial in Canada is wrapped up with a guilty verdict. An Ontario man who is HIV positive has been convicted of first-degree murder in the deaths of 2 women. The women died from AIDS-related illnesses. 52-year-old Johnson Aziga was accused of transmitting HIV by having unprotected sex with co-workers and women he met in bars.